Hi guys, it's Emily from Novel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my June wrap up part 1 and what a month it's going so far. Yet again I'm starting the month with a lot of 5 stars and I'm hoping and praying that it comes out that way in the second half. I've already had to dip into books from my shelves so I could save some books that were on my list for the second half of the month. So I've saved some books that I know are going to be good, like I've saved like The Dance Tree and the Saturday the Woolworths Girls book. But I'm doing really well. I've already read, I'm filming this on the 15th and I think I've read 15 books. I've read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yes, I've read 15 books. And I'm going to finish my 16th today. So that's not bad, is it? I will tell you what I'm currently reading first, and then I will go into details about the books that I've read. Now, I have had one DNF this month, and that was the Catherine Swinford, Alison Weir non-fiction book. So on the books, at the end of the video, I'll be showing you 7 books I'm adding to the TBR for this month. So adding to the books I'm going to be reading this month. So I've added a non-fiction in there, but I'm going to probably add another couple because realistically I like to read at least 2 non-fiction a month. And the fact that I've had to DNF one is not the best sign. So the first book that I'm reading is Howard's End by Ian Forster. And I'm not really enjoying it that much. I don't know if it's just because I'm not in a I'm in a bit of a slump with my classics. But this is not really sort of jumping out at me very much. And it's not one I'm enjoying as much. So I'm trying to get the lighting of this video right. So yeah, I'm not enjoying it as much as I wanted to. It's alright, but it's nothing like grabbing me. And that was my booktuber favourite author, so that's Marissa from Blatantly Bookish's one of her favourite authors. But yeah, I'm not enjoying that as much. Today I will be finishing, this is the book I'll be finishing today, and that's a book I got sent by Love Book Tours. It's my ad PR product, and that is Adventures About to Begin by Alan, I can't say his last name, so I'm not even going to try. And this is basically about, after the death of his grandfather, Noah's life is thrown into chaos as he faces a repressed past which threatens everything he believes to be true. In the course of trying to come to terms with his loss, Noah must also navigate a difficult relationship with his sister Kelly as they reflect on their turbulent childhood, where they were taken from London to live in Kent in the Kent countryside following the breakdown of his parents' marriage. I think, to me, this is quite good. Obviously, you'll be finding out the rating before me because I'll be showing my review for this will be up on Instagram today. The day this goes live, it should be coming out anytime this sort of comes out. So look on Instagram and Goodreads for my review. I think it's going to be 4 stars. It is actually quite good, and to me, at the moment, it's rating at 4 stars. So it is a good book. It's probably one of the better ones. But there is a lot of characters in this, and I kind of get a little bit lost a little bit. But it is a very good book, so I'm enjoying that. Then obviously I'm reading my Dickens book, The Old Curiosity Shop. I'm reading this over June and July. I'm actually enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. I love Little Nell. Little Nell is just, oh my god, she's one of my favourite characters. And I really want her to be happy. I've already had some bits where I've actually gulped and a bit where I've actually got emotional. And it's about, obviously, setting the downtrodden pluckiness against the malignant and villainous. And it was a success because apparently Little Nell became one of the most celebrated characters. And I really do love Little Nell. So it's quite a good one. And then a book I started last night. So I don't know if this will be finished or not. And this is for a tandem mail out. So it's another ad PR product. And this is My Own Worst Enemy. It's an LGBTQI book. And oh my goodness, is it really good already. Like, I only started it last night. And I'm not just saying that because I only read like 22 pages last night, but it's a real funny book already. Like, within 20 pages, I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. And I'm not just saying this because it's an ad PR product. As you can see, I've had a bit of a hit and miss with them recently. But, oh my goodness. So this is basically about Emmy's own worst enemy. So Emmy is her own worst enemy. So why does she fancy someone who looks like her? And she's got this, and I've not met this character yet, so I don't want to know too much. But apparently there is going to be another character, another lead character, May Jones, who is the May is the same casting type, and also this sort of kind of girl that Emmy fancies. And it sounds so good and so much fun. So I love I love this. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. So thank you, Tandem. But that's what I'm going to enjoy reading a bit more later. So those are the books I'm currently reading. I'm also listening to The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary on audiobook, which I'm really enjoying. I don't know whether that'll be finished. That will be finished by the end of the month. But it's a reread for me, but it's the first time listening to it on audiobook. And I'm not sure whether this one's coming out better on audiobook or better physically. I don't know. At the moment I'm a bit hit and miss. I still think it's 5 stars. It's just I think I preferred the physical copy for it. So now to the books that I've read. I've only had 1 3-star, 3 3.5 stars, 2 4 stars, 1 4.5 star, and the rest are 5. So you can get the kind of gist that 9 5 stars at the moment. That is flipping good. Although one of them I'm kind of debating with it. I do this, I rate books too quickly. I need to start, I did my video on rating books, but I need to get a bit better at like thinking about my ratings a bit more. Right, so the first one is 3 stars, and that's Karen Swan's book, The Paris Secret. I kind of expected more historical fiction from this than I got, really. But it is hard-hitting, it is very emotional, because it is talking about like the war in its own way. Not every door should be open. Somewhere along the cobbled streets of Paris, an apartment lies thick with dust and secrets, and full of priceless artworks hidden away for decades. And Flora goes over to Paris to look at these treasures. And it's all right, but I don't know if Karen Swan's writing's for me. None of her books have jumped out. So this is 101% a charity shop book. So it's all right. It was all right. The romance was all right. It was just all right. It just wasn't amazeballs. The next one is Now You're Back by Jill Mansell. Again, this is 3.5 stars. This was slightly better. It's a very typical romance. One magical night in Venice, Dee Dee fell in love, but it ended and left without saying goodbye. Now 13 years on, Shay Mason is back and the old spark's still there. This was better. It was a good, cosy contemporary, really fun. So it's still like 3.5 stars is good. It was a fun contemporary. I really did enjoy it. I don't know how much of a market's going to be left. I think her books are going to be more like charity shops. If I see them, I'll get them when I want a cosy, fun contemporary. So that was definitely a cosy, fun contemporary. It's one of her earlier books, apparently. I think it was written, 2021, so it's only 2 years old. And it was good. It wasn't amazing, but it was good. And I can't remember if this is one that she wrote during COVID time. Some of them are COVID ones, but this was all right. I'm gonna talk to my mum and see whether she wants to read that first. Now the next one was the TBR jar pick, and that was another classic that was on my classics, and this was actually better than I thought. It was 3 books in one. It's the Lark Rise to Candlewood, so it's Lark Rise over to Candlewood and Candlewood Green, and this basically centres around those sort of little hamlets and villages in sort of post-Victorian times. So it's a memorial bit of Victorian, and it was in Oxfordshire, and there is a lead character in this. It's quite good. I can't remember if it's Emma or Laura. I think her name's Laura, and this basically follows her over the book, and it's historical fiction, but it's a bit of a narrative, really. It's a bit of sort of facts about what it was like to live in those sort of times. It's post-Victorian in the rural England in Oxfordshire, and that's quite nice. There's actually some bits where you think, oh, and it's quite cosy. There are 3 books. I think I read the 3 books over 2 or 3 days, which I think made me get the most out of them, and I really did enjoy it. I'm not going to keep it, but it is a good classic. Now the next one is 3.5 stars, and probably rated higher than I should, because it was another book I love book tours, and I was expecting more from this. I was expecting it to be more sort of like stories. Apparently it's fiction, but it to me sprung up very non-fiction based, and it was all right. And if you want to know if you like museums and you like culture and things like that, you might enjoy this more. This was written at the time of COVID, and it tells you about how the COVID epidemic sort of affected the museum and the cultures industry, and about how you plan a museum and things like that. So it was all right. It just wasn't, again, it probably wasn't just for me as much as I wanted it to be. So it was all right, but not for me. Now the next one is a book that my proof copy that I got sent a year ago for review, and I've struggled because I haven't actually written a proper review on it, because I got it as a proof, and I can't get rid of. It's another one. By the way, whoever messaged me about a book that you wanted to gift it, I will get back to you, because I've been poorly, so I've forgotten to do this. So this is one I would have to gift away, because it's I don't know if I'll keep it. I might keep it because I might be able to read more out of it. It's going to be another one that I'm going to be keeping but putting somewhere away. And this is Other People's Husbands by Elizabeth Noble. And this really, sorry, I've got bugs in me. And this really does talk about cheating. And that for me is a trigger. And I probably should have looked at that before I agreed to get this book. And it's a book about a group of close friends. I think that for me, the friendship element of this is 4 stars by the way, sorry, this is my first one, 4 stars. And the friendship element of these group of close friends is brilliant. The friendship bit is written amazingly. I think that's what I enjoyed about it. And the close bonds are formed at nursery gates 2 decades ago, and they've celebrated, commiserated and grown together, and they knew each other so well until the affair, and now that crack appears. I'm not sure if I don't think this glorifies affairs, which is what's good about it. It doesn't glorify that, but there are certain bits that just, I don't know, I personally found it a bit hard. But the writing is good. It was a good 4-star book. It's not one I can give away, so I'm not sure what I'm doing with this yet. But now the next one is one that my mum is definitely going to want to read, and this is Friars House, and this is really good. This is 4 stars, but it's like a good 4 stars, and it's about 9-year-old. I think I added this to my TBRs. This was one of the ones I chose to add to it, and this is set over 2 timelines, 1939 and 1984. But those timelines do kind of like get extended, or certainly 1939 goes over a lot longer period of time. And this also does talk about the war in Singapore. So there are some triggers, so please be aware of that going in. We started in 1939, and 9-year-old Olivia Friel is delighted to be spending the summer at Friars House, a place where her parents and their family and friends are always happy. But then something happens and things change and stuff, and then we got in the present. It's in 1984, which apparently is still historical fiction. God, I was 5 then. Charlotte Friel gets a call from her ailing mother asking something she'll never ask before, for Charlotte to come home. There are things that Olivia needs to tell her daughter before it's too late, and then she lived the past, and the past and future lines go. It is a very emotional book. You have to be aware of that going in. You have to be aware that it could potentially trigger us, but it is a very good book. I really did enjoy that. A very good historical fiction, but very emotional. Now, I've just realised where did I put my 5-star? This is my 4.5 star. And 4.5 stars for a contemporary is bloody good. And that is because even though this is the sauciest fudge book, and I mean it's very, very saucy, it was such good fun. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was saucy as anything, and you have to get past that, but the storyline is really good. And it's about a girl, Clara, who's basically, she's quite a posh girl, very posh, very well brought up, and she decides to, ultimate good girl, and she decides to move across the country to stay with her so-called, one of her childhood crushes. But then something happens and he doesn't end up living there, and she ends up getting a roommate. But it's safe to say this roommate, Josh, is a porn star. So you have to be aware there are a lot of sexual content in this, and I mean like by the freaking bucket loads. But Josh, even though he's a porn star, and even though he's a very bad boy, you know I've got a thing for bad boys, I just loved it. I loved watching him and Clara together, and the way Clara chills out and breaks the moulds, and it's just, I think it's fan-freaking-tastic. Really enjoyed this. Thoroughly good fun. Can't wait to read its sequel, and I will be picking up so many more books by Rosie Denan. I'm not going to keep it because, I don't know, it's not like that amazing that I'll reread it, but God did I enjoy it. I'm glad I got sequels, so I can't wait to read that. Now the next one is 5 stars, but looking back I think I need to change it to 4.5. And I'm sorry, Jem. Jem from Gemma Books is her favourite book, The Poison One Bible. But I think if I was being honest, it should be rated 4.5 stars, because I found it very slow to get into, and I found the racial elements very hard-hitting. Now, Barbara Consolva just won the Women's Prize with Demon Copperhead, and this is one of her earlier books. But bear in mind, this was written in the 90s, and that's probably another reason, and it's set in the 1959. So again, the racial content is very of its time, but I found some of the words that were used were very hard-hitting, were very, just in my opinion, slightly wrong. But this was a really good book. It's a multi-generational book, and it's a book that's set over a long period of time. And it's set in African soil, a lot of it. And again, there's some real triggers in this for things that happen. But it's very well written, and I did think it was really interesting. Definitely one that you need to have your eyes open, and it will break you. It will 100%. It broke me into a million frigging pieces. I read most of it in one day, because once I did get into it, it was slow to get into, but once I got into it, I couldn't put it down. It was that good. I think I'm gonna get Mum to read it. I'm gonna get Mum to read that one. Now the rest of these are 5 stars. One is a reread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 books. No, 2 of these are rereads, so they are not going to count as favourites. But any of the, and there are 2 of these that I'm putting down as my favourites, and 2 of them will go on my favourites for the year so far. One of them's a pretty obvious guess, but see if you can guess which one. It's up to you if you want to do it. Not everyone does. But the first one is Bloodmark by Tracy Deonn. 5 stars all the way. There is no doubt in my mind that this could be 5 stars. It's a sequel to Legendborn, and apparently there's going to be another book in this series, and I was gripped from start to finish. This is, what I love is that we've got Tracy, the lead character in this, Brie. She's a black girl who is living in a white environment again, and it's about the Legendborn authors. I can't really tell you too much because it is second in the series, but it's about the Legendborn order, and she descended from the King Arthur's knights. But Brie is someone different. She's a medium, a bloodcrafter, and a scion. And God, this is action-packed. God, this made me cry at times. God, this, I was on the edge of my seat for most of the time I read this. I was literally like, I didn't want to put it down. I could not put it down. The typesetting in this is, can you see how tiny this is though? So even though this is like just over 550 pages, it is such tiny writing that it did take longer to read. But then that's good, because I got to absorb it. And it's just so freaking good. And yet, again, I didn't like the main male character. I liked the second one. The one that you shouldn't like. I didn't fall in love with Nick. I fell in love with Selwyn. And boy, did I fall for him. He was so gorgeous and so lovely, and yeah, loved it. Absolutely friggin' loved it. I'm keeping that one. Now my next one was a reread, and that's Dear Mrs. Bird by AJ Pearce. Now what was surprising with this was, originally I rated it 4 stars. It was a reread because it was a favourite, but it was a 4-star favourite. I didn't think, and I also got it because Mrs. Porter's Calling, which is her latest book, has just come out, and I wanted to read that, but I needed to reread this one because although I read Yours Cheerfully last year, this was read quite a few years ago, so I needed to reread it. And I actually went from 4 stars to 5 stars because when I reread it, I enjoyed it so much more. Do many people get that when you reread a book? Does a reread change your rating? I should have asked that in my questions. I think I did actually talk about that. But to me, this did. This went from 4 stars to 5 stars. And it's mainly about Emmeline Lake, and it's first in a series, so if you've read the other books, you can't really know too much. But Emmeline goes to work for a magazine, and she thinks she's going to be she wants to be a war correspondent, she wants to do all this good. And then she realises that actually these advice columnists can do good in their own way. Again, there's some really triggering times. It's set at wartime, so you've got to be aware that with the wartime stuff, there is some triggers. But it is so flipping good, and I thoroughly loved it, and I cannot wait. I think I've decided that in August I'm going to reread it, because my July TBR, heads up, my July TBR is massive. When you include the Jane Austen July and my other books, my July TBR is through the freaking roof. But as we know today, I've got a full 19 books that are going on that. As you know, today I've already read 15 books on the 15th, and I'll be reading 16 by the end of the day, so it's not going to be a problem. It's just very big. Now the next one is a book that I got gifted for Christmas, and it's The Forgotten Bookshop in Paris. And oh my god, this is another one that starts off a little bit slow. You've got 2 storylines, Paris 1940 and the modern day. And the modern day, we start off with the book in the modern day. Juliet and her husband have finally made it to France on a romantic getaway. But as the days pass, she realises they've grown apart. Something happens, and she decides to stay in Paris, and she finds this forgotten bookshop. But the Forgotten Bookshop did a lot of amazing things in the wartime. The Nazis were around, set in Paris 1940, and the person who runs the bookshop does some good things, and he saves books, which are starters, and he's fighting against the Nazis in his own little way. Nice quiet guy, but he's fighting in. And the way the 2 timelines mix up and the way these characters are connected is really mysterious and intriguing, and I thoroughly love this. Mum is definitely going to have to read that. She would love that, I know she will. Next one is Paige Tunes' latest book. I think Mum will want this. Do you think my mum, poor mum, every time I do wrap up, she gets given loads of books. She doesn't have to buy hardly any anymore. This is Paige Tunes' latest book. I will be speaking about this quite a bit more in my doodah. I've got a Paige Tune ranking video. The next video that's going to come live is going to be my Paige Tune ranking video. And obviously this was 5 stars. This is a book that we waited nearly 2 years for. And normally she publishes a book a year. But this one, she decided she waited a bit longer. And oh my god, it's my gorgeous copy. You all know I was looking forward to this. It's Paige Tunes is my favourite author ever. And she made my sister Vicky happy. We've got a younger sister Vicky, and she's not on Booktube. She doesn't read very much, but she loves Paige Tunes. And when she published a post on Instagram about reading Paige Tunes books, Paige Tunes shared that in her stories and made Vicky so happy. So thank you, Paige, you're amazing. This is about Ren, who's at the start of the book, Ren realises that her fiance is in love with someone else, and she thinks her heart will never recover. Over on the other side of the world, Anders has lost his wife 4 years ago and is struggling to move on. And then Ren decides to go and be with her dad in America, a dad that she's estranged from. Their parents split up when she was very young, and she also meets up. She stays again with her half sister and their relationship, and her relationship with her stepmother, and those other relationships, as well as the romance element that comes in, is done so well. It's 5 stars. It's amazeballs. Bloody loved it. 101%. It's such a good book. And then the books that I read, I added to the TBR because I wanted a fun book to read after reading some hard-hitting books. I wanted a book that I could read in a couple of days. So I read the Bridgeton book, The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is the second in the series. I need to know, we do not know yet. I've obviously watched the first 2 series of Bridgeton, and we've got the 3rd series coming up. I'm wondering whether I read the 3rd book, which might not be the next book in the series, or whether I wait until after the 3rd book, the 3rd doodahs come up. Because you do find yourself comparing this to the TV series. And this is actually very, very different from the TV series. I can't tell you too much, but I will tell you that it's very, very different. The TV series, on the first book in the series, it wasn't done too differently, but this was very, very different. But I actually found myself loving Anthony far, far more. This was talking about the eldest Bridgerton. And I found myself loving Anthony far, far more in this book than I did in the second book. Than I did in the TV series. In the TV series, he really is a bad boy. But you kind of get more out of him, and you see a lot nicer side of Anthony in this book, and I fell in love with him more. So, Mum's not going to want to read that, but I loved it. Now, my other reread, it's the last in the series, of Why Mummy Sloshed. Thoroughly loved it. Reread it. Her books are older, it's the last in the series. Reread it, don't need to say any more than that. It's flipping amazing. Still 5 stars. Didn't change. Got a bit more out of it this time as my kids are getting older, and I'm going to keep this series because I'm going to reread it over and over again. Then, last but not least on this, and I've realised I've still got to show you the books I'm reading next. Carrie, Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This has had mixed reviews all over Booktube, but I thoroughly loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. It was 5 stars for me. Yes, there is a lot of tennis in it, but I did grow up with my mum watching tennis a lot, and Chris watches it. And I grew up with Wimbledon, and I grew up with some of this stuff. So I kind of, even though I'm not a massive tennis fan, I knew a bit. So I kind of got past that. But Carrie Soto is a great character. Very flawed, very competitive, very thinks she knows it all and wants to get revenge. And there's a lot about that bad character. But I did still enjoy it. I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was brilliant fun. I loved the bloke in this, the lead character in this, and why do I never remember their names? Bo Huntley. I loved him more than I loved Carrie Soto. I loved Bo Huntley. And I also like Nikki Chan, who's like the adversary, the person she's fighting against. I thought it was really good fun. Taylor Jenkins Reid just never disappoints. To me, it's not as good as The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or Malibu Rising, both of which I loved. I love Daisy Jones and the Six, but this I did enjoy. I think for me, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is my favourite. Then Daisy Jones and the Six. Then Malibu Rising. Then this. They're my favourites at the moment. I've got to read all of her backlist books, but I did still really, really enjoy this. So, I will tell you my favourite, if you can see if you can guess for a few minutes. My favourites are obviously going to be the Paige Tunes book and Blood March. They're going on my favourites for the year so far, which is another video coming up in July. So now I'm going to quickly show you the books that, I don't want this to be too long, this is a long video. I'm going to show you the 7 books that I'm adding to the TBR for this month. I won't go into too much detail because I'll talk more about them. Love Rosie by Cecilia Ahern. This is one of Cecilia Ahern's only books that I've not read. I got it in a charity shop. No, I can't remember if I got this in a charity shop or if I got it in on a car boot. But this is about best friends since forever. Rosie and Alex have shared their hopes, dreams and firsts. One awkward moment at 18, one missed opportunity, and life sends them hurtling in different directions. Although they stay in touch, misunderstandings, circumstances keep them apart. Can they gamble everything, even their friendship, on true love? This is frigging massive. This is a big book. It's like 550 pages. So it's one that I'm going to be reading when I've got a bit more time. But I really want to get it off my shelves. I want to see if I like it. Because I loved P.S. I Love You. I loved that series. I've been a real hit and miss with her. But let's read that. And then I've got a medical book, a short book, but an NHS book. This is like, again, this is only 200, not even 300 pages. And this is about a junior doctor story. Your Life in My Hands. So I kind of wanted to read a non-fiction book. I wanted to read that. I do find that intriguing. Obviously, being in hospital so much as I have over the years, I find these books very intriguing but very hard-hitting. So I wanted to read that and see what I think of it. Then I wanted a book that I knew that I was going to really get into, and a book that I have only had on my shelves not long, so I don't know why I've added it up. But I loved Stone Blind, so I wanted to read 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. And yeah, I loved Stone Blind. I know that Jem from Gemma Books loved this, so let's see what I like. It's a kind of Greek retelling, I believe. In the middle of the night, Carusa wakes up to find her beloved city in flames. 10 seemingly endless years of conflict between the Greeks and the Trojans are over. Troy has fallen. From the Trojan women whose lives and fates now stand in the hands of the Greek women, to the Amazon princess who fought Achilles on their behalf, to Penelope who waits awaiting the return of Odysseus. The three goddesses whose feud started the stories. Oh my god, this looks so good! Female empowerment. Woo! Let's go for it. I can't bloody wait. Then a contemporary I bought when it was for my birthday sort of treaty money. Stepping Up by Sarah Turner. It's a contemporary. It's about parenting, but it's parenting on a different way. So now guardian to her teenage niece and toddler nephew after an unspeakable tragedy, Beth is catapulted into an unfamiliar world of bedtime stories, parents' evening. And it's about someone that's forced to become a mum and how it goes. And I just can't wait. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm not too long. This is... She wrote The Unmumsy Mum, which is like a non-fiction book. But this was really good. It's like 400 pages, but it was one that I just kind of really am intrigued by. Then a book that this is adding on to the TBR, but it's almost like try a chapter, because I am Charlie from Charles Heathcote's not sure if I will like this. It's a retelling, and it's a retelling of The Wizard of Oz, and it's wicked. Some people have loved this, some people have hated it. And then when Dorothy triumphed over the Wicked Witch of the West in the classic novel Wonderful Wizard of Oz, we only heard one side of the story. But what of her arch and nemesis, the mysterious witch? I think I've seen the TV film of this, of Wicked, but I've not read the book. So I'm intrigued as to whether I'm going to like it or not. Again, it's quite big, so I've kind of got big ones. So I've got like a few big ones and a few shorter ones. And then this is my shorter contemporary. I wanted a summer book. I wanted a real summer book for this week. This will probably be at the end of the month, because next week's supposed to be raining again. Bloody hell. A Year at the Hotel Gondola by Nikki Pellegrin. I enjoy Nikki Pellegrin's work. I think it's really good fun. This is Kat has never lived a quiet life. She's an adventurer, a food writer, travelling the world for visiting far-flung places. And then she's fallen in love with an Italian man and moving to Venice to help him run the guest house. Kat will write all about the adventures, but what Kat ought to know by now, the things about the adventures, they never go the way you expect. 300 pages, short and sweet contemporary, looks good fun. And then one that I added on literally last night, I know this is a bigger one, and this is one I've it's 500 bloody pages. What have I done to myself? Set in India in 1947, a young woman, a fragile marriage, a scandalous love story, Sandalwood Tree. And this is by Ellie L. Newmark. And this is set in a different place, so it's set, and they move to the Himalayas, and the cracks soon appear in their marriage as Martin, a Jewish war veteran of the Second World War, fails to bury an unbearable war memories. And this looks really interesting. It does look really interesting though, so I'm really looking forward to that. So this is a long video. I wasn't expecting it to be quite this long, but let me know in the comments down below, what are your favourite books of the month so far? How is your reading going? You enjoying it? What do you think of the books that I'm adding to my TBR, and what do you think of the books I've read? I'd love to know what you think. Let me know down below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, not subscribed, ring on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.